Alien girl of high status asked the human for help, but what she offered back was unexpectedly warm. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now let's return to our main character. The air inside the auxiliary chamber shimmered with a pale lavender glow, each flicker from the cracked ceiling panel casting soft reflections on the polished floor. A faint hum vibrated through the metal walls, the kind of unstable electrical buzz that made Ethan Ward's instincts tighten. His toolkit weighed against his hip as he stepped in, boot soles echoing in the quiet. He thought he was alone until he saw her. Soraya Thelm, recognizable even to a low-level maintenance tech like him. High status, royal bloodline, easily identified by her smooth violet skin and the silver crest embroidered along her mantle. She shouldn't have been anywhere near a malfunctioning wing of the palace. And she definitely shouldn't have been sitting on the floor, bracing one hand against a trembling support beam while her breathing came in shallow, uneven draws. Ethan froze at the threshold, heartbeat tapping at his ribs. For a second, he wasn't sure if he should bow, salute, or quietly back away and pretend he saw nothing. But her eyes lifted toward him, steady despite the stress in her posture. "Human," she said, voice calm but strained, "assist me." Not a plea, a command offered through dignity and discomfort. Ethan swallowed, stepped forward, and pushed aside the instinct to ask for permission from security he knew wouldn't arrive in time. He shrugged off the light jacket he wore over his work shirt and gently draped it over her shoulders before she could object. She blinked once, surprised but not offended, the fabric covering the slight shiver she'd been trying to hide. "You're cold," he said simply, crouching beside her to check the beam locking mechanism. This wing shouldn't be active during inspections. Something must have overloaded. She watched his hands move with quiet focus, the soft glimmer of the broken lighting reflecting across her eyes. "You entered without authorization," she noted. "I heard the alarm," he replied. "Figured someone might need help." For a moment the chamber felt still, the hum fading behind the rhythm of their breathing. The warmth from the jacket shifted as Soraya adjusted it, her shoulders relaxing by a fraction. "Your presence is inconvenient," she said, though her tone lacked any real sharpness. "But it is welcome." Ethan glanced at her, unsure he heard correctly, but her gaze remained steady. "Let's get you out of here," he said, rising and offering his hand. She hesitated only a heartbeat before accepting it, her fingers cool against his palm. Together, they stood as the lights flickered once more, painting the room in gentle waves of violet and gold. The chamber door slid open with a gentle hiss as Ethan guided Soraya into the narrow service corridor, the soft glow of emergency lights brushing their faces in warm orange pulses. The air smelled faintly of heated circuitry, a sharpness that made Ethan glance upward at the conduit lines trembling overhead. He steadied her step by step, careful not to rush her even though the building's systems continued to flicker. Soraya kept one hand on his jacket draped around her shoulders, her grip light but present, as if she still weighed the decision to lean on a human at all. Her posture remained regal, but there was a subtle unsteadiness in the way she shifted her balance that made Ethan slow his pace. He angled his toolkit to free his other hand, tapping a panel near the junction. The small screen flashed unstable readings, the numbers jittering like a pulse out of rhythm. "This whole wing is drawing too much power," he murmured, more to himself. "Someone should have flagged it hours ago." Soraya watched him with an expression that was equal parts curiosity and restrained tension. "You navigate these systems easily," she said quietly. "Humans are not typically assigned to our primary architecture." He shrugged, pushing the loose panel gently back into place. "We learn fast, and your systems are not as different as everyone thinks." She considered that, her gaze drifting to the lights overhead. "You are certain you can lead us safely out?" He met her eyes, steady and calm. "Yes, I can." Her shoulders eased a little at that, the lavender glow from her skin catching the edge of the dim hallway. They turned left toward a maintenance stairwell, the kind seldom used by diplomatic guests. The air felt warmer here, vibrating with the steady thrum of the palace's main generator far below. Ethan paused, checking the railing for stability before helping her descend the first step. Soraya's voice softened into something almost reflective. "You did not hesitate," she said, "even though you did not know who I was." Ethan let out a breath that fogged faintly in the cooler air drifting from a side vent. "I did not need to know. You were in trouble. That was enough." She stopped on the next landing, her hand brushing the smooth metal wall for balance. The faint shimmer around her seemed to brighten for a moment, like a quiet acknowledgement. "Your kind offers help so freely," she said. "Among my people, assistance is often tied to rank or return." Ethan angled his head, studying her gently. "Everyone deserves a hand when they need one. That is just how it should be." For the first time her gaze softened, just a small shift, but something undeniably warm. She lowered her voice. "You speak with certainty, Ethan Ward." He smiled faintly. "I try." A distant tremor vibrated through the stairwell, the lights dimming for a heartbeat before stabilizing again. Ethan instinctively stepped closer, one arm ready to steady her even if she did not ask. She noticed the movement, and instead of stepping away, she allowed it. They continued downward, the hum of the structure blending with the quiet rhythm of their footsteps, the corridor narrowing as palace sounds faded into soft, pulsing quiet. In that stillness, the distance between a royal figure and a maintenance worker felt suddenly smaller, shaped not by status, but by the steady warmth growing between them as they moved together through the dim flicker of the lower halls. The lower hall stretched ahead in a quiet curve, the lights along the ceiling glowing in softened pulses that made the air feel almost warm despite the metallic chill drifting from the vents. Ethan walked just half a step ahead, his hand near the railing, slowing his pace so Soraya could match it comfortably. Her breathing had steadied, but he could still sense a faint tension in the way her fingers brushed the wall, as if she was listening to the structure itself. A soft vibration moved through the floor like a gentle ripple, and Soraya paused, her violet eyes narrowing slightly. "The energy flow beneath us has shifted," she said, her voice low but composed. Ethan tilted his head, listening, though he only caught the faint hum of machinery that always ran beneath the palace. "Shifted how?" She closed her eyes briefly, her crest shimmering with a faint lavender glow that flickered like a pulse. "It is not dangerous, but something is rerouting power without authorization." Ethan exhaled slowly. "So the malfunction is bigger than just a cracked panel." She opened her eyes again. "Yes, and someone should have detected this long before it reached my chambers." Ethan glanced back up the stairwell they had descended. "Then it is a good thing you were not alone up there." Soraya's expression softened, and she gave the slightest nod, the jacket still draped over her shoulders, shifting gently with the movement. Indeed. They continued along the narrow corridor until the walls widened into a larger service junction, dimly lit by a ring of amber lights. Pipes ran along the ceiling, their surfaces reflecting the glow in warm metallic stripes. Ethan knelt by an access panel and set his toolkit down, checking the readings on the embedded display. "We are close to a stable zone," he said. "Once we reach it, palace personnel can escort you safely." Soraya watched him work, her hands clasped lightly at her front, the delicate shimmer of her crest catching the flicker of the lights. "You speak as though this is routine." Ethan gave a quiet laugh. "In my job, anything that breaks tends to break in the same handful of ways." She tilted her head, studying him. "Your voice carries confidence, not arrogance." Ethan looked up at her, surprised. "Is that unusual?" "Among many in my station," she replied softly. "Confidence often becomes a shield rather than a tool." Ethan held her gaze for a moment, then returned to the panel, tightening a loose bracket with careful precision. "Tools are made to be used," he said, "not hidden behind." Soraya took a single step closer, the faint scent of something floral brushing the air as she moved. Her tone softened further. "You speak differently from the officials I meet." "Is that good or bad?" he asked. She considered, then answered in a quiet voice that held no distance at all. "It is refreshing." Ethan looked up slowly, meeting her eyes. The corridor lights dimmed for a heartbeat, then brightened again, painting both of them in warm gold. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The silence was gentle, comfortable, almost grounding. Then Soraya shifted her gaze to the shadows farther down the corridor. "We should continue," she said, though her voice held a warmth that had not been there before. Ethan closed the panel, stood, and offered his arm. She accepted it without hesitation, her hand light, but certain on his forearm. Together, they moved forward into the soft glow of the palace's lower hallways, their steps falling into quiet, steady rhythm as the distance between them continued to narrow in ways neither of them fully realized yet. The corridor curved into a wider chamber where the ceiling rose higher, giving the air a sense of quiet openness. Soft blue panels glowed along the walls, casting smooth light over the metallic floor. Ethan paused at the entrance, scanning the room with a practiced eye. The structure here looked steadier, the panels humming in an even rhythm that felt almost like a heartbeat underfoot. Soraya stepped beside him, her posture a little straighter than before, though she still kept his jacket close around her shoulders. The gentle warmth of the fabric contrasted with the cool air drifting from the vents above. "Is this the stable zone you mentioned?" she asked, her voice calm but edged with cautious hope. Ethan nodded. "It should be. The readings feel normal here. Power flow is balanced." Soraya moved forward, her fingertips brushing the illuminated wall as though feeling its pulse. Her crest shimmered softly, picking up the blue light. "This section is usually restricted to engineering staff," she said. "Very few from my station walk these halls." Ethan let out a quiet breath. "Then today is a first." She turned her head slightly toward him. "It seems I am having a day of many firsts." There was a gentle honesty in her tone, so unguarded that Ethan found himself slowing, giving space for whatever she might say next. But before she could speak again, a faint fluctuation rippled through the chamber. Not dangerous, just noticeable. Ethan's attention sharpened. He stepped toward an access panel, opening it with a quick twist of the latch. "Something is still routing power strangely," he murmured. "Nothing severe yet, but I want to make sure it stays that way." While he worked, Soraya watched him with quiet focus, her hands clasped lightly in front of her. "You assume responsibility easily," she said, "even when it is not demanded of you." "Things run smoother when people help where they can," Ethan replied, "even if it is not technically their job." She tilted her head, considering the statement. "Among my people, such initiative is praised only when done by those of rank. For others, it is often discouraged." Ethan looked up, surprised. "That sounds difficult." She gave a faint smile, one that seemed to soften the glow of her crest. "It is simply the way things are. Or rather, the way things were, before today." He secured the panel and stood, brushing dust off his hands. "All right, we can keep moving, but slowly. The system is stabilizing. I want to guide you through the rest of this wing carefully." Soraya nodded, stepping closer. The movement brought her within an arm's length, her presence warm in the cool chamber. "Ethan," she said gently, "I appreciate your guidance more than protocol instructs me to admit." He felt a slight warmth rise in his chest, subtle but steady. "You do not have to follow a script around me," he said. "Just be yourself." Her eyes softened in a way he had not yet seen, as if a small piece of distant starlight had settled there. "Then allow me to say this plainly. You have shown me a kind of sincerity I am not accustomed to receiving." Ethan met her gaze, steady and calm. "You deserve sincerity." The chamber lights flickered once, then steadied again, casting a warm sweep of illumination across their faces. Soraya drew a soft breath, almost a sigh. "Let us continue," she said, though her voice carried a quieter warmth than before. Ethan offered his arm, not assuming, simply giving her the choice. She accepted without hesitation, her hand resting lightly on his forearm. Together they crossed the chamber, their steps echoing gently as the hum of the palace shifted into a steady, reassuring rhythm around them, the distance between their worlds narrowing with every quiet step forward. The chamber gradually narrowed into a quieter passage where the lights dimmed to a soft glow, leaving the air still and centered, as if the palace itself was holding its breath. Ethan slowed his steps without thinking, sensing the calm settling over the space. Soraya matched his pace, her hand still resting lightly on his arm, her posture no longer tense but contemplative. The faint shimmer of her violet skin reflected the subtle blue lights along the walls, creating a gentle radius of color around her. "This section feels different," she said softly, her voice carrying a tone Ethan had not heard from her before. "Calmer." Ethan nodded. "This is one of the buffer corridors. It is designed to absorb vibrations from the power systems." Everything feels quieter here. Soraya loosened her hold on his arm, not in distance but in ease, as if the silence granted her a kind of permission. She wandered a few small steps ahead, her fingers trailing along the wall. The glow beneath her touch brightened subtly, reacting to her presence with a soft pulse. Ethan watched with quiet interest. "Your crest and the panels," he said. "They synchronize?" She looked over her shoulder, meeting his eyes. "Yes. The palace architecture is attuned to my family line. It recognizes my energy pattern." Ethan took a slow breath, absorbing that. "So this place responds to you." She turned fully toward him. "Sometimes, but only when I am centered." The faint smile she gave held a fragile honesty. "Today I did not expect anything to feel centered." Ethan stepped closer, his voice gentle. "You have been handling a lot. Anyone would be shaken." Soraya lowered her gaze, letting silence settle between them. It was not an uncomfortable silence. It felt more like a pause meant to allow something unspoken to breathe. After a moment, she lifted her eyes again, the glow in them softened by gratitude. "Ethan," she said quietly, "may I ask you something without formality?" He nodded. "You can ask anything." She hesitated, searching for the right words. "When you entered the damaged chamber earlier, what did you feel?" He blinked, surprised by the simplicity of the question. "Worried," he answered. "You were alone in a place that was not safe. That is all I needed to know." She studied him with a look that felt both curious and warm. "You saw me as a person," she said, "not as a title." Ethan offered a gentle smile. "That is because you are a person." Soraya took a slow step toward him, the quiet of the corridor wrapping around them. "Like a sheltered moment." "Most do not speak to me like that," she admitted. "Most see what I represent, not who I am." "Maybe they never had the chance to," Ethan said. "Maybe they were never close enough to see you." Her eyes searched his face, as though absorbing something she had never been offered so freely. "Close enough," she repeated, the words soft and almost thoughtful. A faint ripple of warm light traveled across the wall panels, mirroring the shift in her expression. She glanced at the glow, then at Ethan. "The palace is responding again," she said. Ethan raised an eyebrow. "To you?" "To us," she corrected gently. The glow lingered for a moment before fading into its usual soft blue. Soraya allowed the faintest breath of a laugh, quiet and warm. "This corridor amplifies resonance," she said. "It responds to certain emotional harmonics." Ethan felt his heart steady in a way he did not expect, grounded by the softness in her voice. "Then I guess we passed some kind of test." "Perhaps," she said, her eyes steady on his. "Or perhaps we simply found a moment where the palace could finally hear us." The silence that followed felt different from all the others. Not empty, not uncertain, just full, in a quiet, gentle way neither of them tried to explain. Soraya stepped back to his side, her hand returning to his arm with deliberate ease. "Let us continue," she said, her voice warm as the corridor lights glowed softly around them. Ethan nodded, guiding her forward as the palace hummed beneath their feet, calm and harmonious, as if acknowledging the quiet shift unfolding between them. The corridor shifted subtly as they walked, the soft blue light gradually warming into a muted gold that washed gently over the smooth metallic walls. Ethan noticed the change first, slowing his steps as the glow steadied into a calm, even pulse. Soraya lifted her eyes toward the ceiling, her expression thoughtful, almost reflective. "This part of the palace is emotionally reactive," she said quietly. "It resonates when two presences align." Ethan gave a faint, uncertain smile. "Are you saying the palace can feel us?" "Not feel," she corrected gently. "Perceive harmony. It listens for balance." Ethan absorbed that in silence, guiding her toward a wider landing where the hallway opened into a circular space. The floor here shimmered with faint geometric patterns, each line glowing with a subtle warmth that made the air feel pleasantly alive. Soraya stepped ahead of him, her movements slow, deliberate. When she reached the center of the circle, the radiant patterns brightened under her feet. Ethan watched the light climb in a soft ripple along the walls. "It responds to you more strongly than before," he said. She glanced back at him, the glow painting her eyes in warm lavender. "It responds to what we bring into the space," she murmured. Her voice carried a softness that felt almost like a secret. Ethan stepped into the circle beside her. The patterns beneath his boots brightened again, but differently. Warmer near where he stood, cooler near her, merging into one blended ring of gold at the point where their shadows touched. Soraya looked down at the shifting light, her breath catching ever so slightly. I have never seen it merge like this, she said. It usually stays separate. Ethan rubbed the back of his neck, not entirely sure what to make of it. Maybe it is reading something we are not seeing. She turned toward him, and for a moment the palace hummed softly around them, a vibration so gentle it felt more like an exhale than a sound. Ethan, she said slowly, may I ask you something personal? Of course, he replied. Her gaze searched his, steady but layered with something complex, something quietly conflicted. Humans help freely, she began. Without hierarchy, without trait, without expecting something of equal value in return. He nodded. That is usually the idea. Then, she said, her voice softening even more, what does a human expect when offering help to someone like me? Ethan blinked, caught off guard by the honesty in her question. I do not expect anything, he said. Truly. Nothing. Nothing, he repeated. If someone needs help, you help. That is just the right thing to do. Soraya lowered her head slightly, her eyes drifting to the merging ring of light surrounding them. Among my people, she whispered, nothing is ever offered without meaning. Actions carry weight. Intent carries obligation. Ethan stepped a little closer, careful, steady. Then this can be simple, he said softly. There is no obligation here. She lifted her gaze, meeting his fully this time. And if I wish there was? The question hung in the warm, glowing air, fragile but sincere. Ethan's breath stilled for a moment. Then we talk about it, he said. Honestly, not through rules or titles. Her expression softened into something unmistakably vulnerable. Honesty, she repeated. A rare privilege. The golden glow around them pulsed gently, as if acknowledging the shift in the air. Soraya took a slow step back toward his side, the fabric of his jacket brushing lightly against her arm. Let us continue, she said, though the warmth in her voice lingered like a quiet echo. Ethan guided her toward the next passage, the merging light following their steps for several moments before fading into a soft, steady glow as they moved deeper into the harmonious quiet of the palace. The next passage curved gently downward, guiding them into a quieter section where the lights dimmed into a warm dusk-like glow. The hum beneath the floor softened until it felt more like a distant heartbeat than machinery. Ethan walked a little ahead, checking each junction as they passed, but Soraya stayed close, matching his pace with a steadiness that had grown over the last several halls. The air here carried a faint warmth, settling softly on their skin, as if the palace itself recognized the shift between them. Ethan slowed when they reached a narrow bridge spanning a shallow mechanical chamber below. The drop was not deep, but the walkway was thin, supported by delicate rails that vibrated gently with the palace's internal rhythm. It is safe, he said, testing the first step, but it might feel a little unstable. Soraya watched the rails tremble, then focused on him instead. If you walk, I will be steady, she said, calm and certain. Ethan offered his arm again, and she took it with both hands this time, allowing herself more support than before. They moved carefully, step by step, the bridge responding with soft, low vibrations. Halfway across, a sudden fluctuation pulsed through the structure. Nothing harmful, just a sharp ripple of energy shifting somewhere deep within the palace systems. Ethan instinctively shifted his stance, steadying Soraya with a firm but gentle hold. She tightened her grip on his arm, her breath catching lightly. The energy shifted again, she said quietly. It feels close. Ethan listened, not to the hum, but to the faint tremor under his boots. It might be the system rerouting to compensate. This area is older. Soraya looked over the rail, her crest shimmering with a soft violet pulse. Older architecture responds more emotionally, she murmured. It mirrors stress. Ethan glanced at her, then at the trembling rail. Then let us move slowly. The more stable we are, the more stable it stays. She nodded, grounding her steps with new focus. Together they reached the far end of the bridge, stepping onto solid flooring again. Soraya exhaled, steadying herself with one hand on the wall. Her voice softened with relief. You remain calm, she said, even when the environment shifts. Ethan gave a small smile. I have worked in old structures before. They teach you patience. She studied him, her gaze warm and thoughtful. "Your patience is a comfort," she said quietly. Ethan felt a quiet warmth rise in his chest, but he kept his voice steady. "You are doing well. We are almost to another stabilization point." Soraya stepped a little closer, her voice dropping into a gentle tone he had not heard from her yet. "Ethan, may I ask you something?" "Of course," he said. "When you hold on to me," she began, her fingers brushing the edge of his sleeve. "Is it only to keep me steady? Or is there intention beyond that?" Ethan paused, breath still for a moment. The question was sincere, not pressed, but layered with meaning. He answered softly, "I hold on to make sure you are safe." But he met her eyes fully. "I do not mind being close to you." Soraya's expression warmed, a soft glow spreading across her crest like a quiet sunrise. "I find your presence grounding," she admitted. "Unexpected, but grounding." The corridor lights brightened by a fraction, acknowledging the harmony again. Soraya noticed, but did not look away from him. "Your people give comfort without request," she said. "My people struggle to accept it without questioning intent." Ethan nodded once. "Then let this be simple. No hidden meaning. Just two people helping each other through a difficult moment." Her hand lingered on his forearm, gentle, trusting. "Then I accept it," she whispered. They continued forward, the palace humming softly around them, the warmth between them now steady, quiet, and unmistakably real. The corridor ahead widened into a tall, softly lit atrium where the walls curved upward in gentle arcs, catching the warm gold glow that flowed from hidden panels above. The air felt still here, almost serene, the hum beneath. The floor settling into a calm, even rhythm. Ethan eased his steps as they entered, sensing immediately that this space was different. Soraya slowed beside him, her eyes lifting toward the light as if the room recognized her presence. Her crest shimmered with a faint lavender pulse, warm and steady. "This is a resonance chamber," she said quietly. "It is meant for alignment and clarity. Few outside my lineage ever step into it." Ethan glanced around, absorbing the gentle warmth that washed over his skin. "It feels peaceful," he said, "like the palace is finally breathing normally again." Soraya stepped forward, her movements careful and graceful. She extended her hand toward the central platform, a smooth circular panel set into the floor. As soon as her foot touched the edge of it, the glow brightened beneath her, soft waves of color rippling outward like calm water responding to a single drop. Ethan watched the patterns unfold, each line tracing a delicate pulse that radiated through the chamber. "It knows you are here," he said. Soraya looked back over her shoulder, her expression thoughtful. "It knows more than that. It senses alignment of intent." Ethan joined her on the platform, stepping beside her. The glow shifted again, merging their separate pulses into one uniform wash of light that climbed the walls in a slow, steady rise. Soraya inhaled softly. "It has never done that before." Ethan lowered his voice. "Does that mean something?" She held his gaze for a long, quiet moment. "It means that whatever energy exists between us, the palace acknowledges it." Ethan felt his breath steady, grounding himself in the warm glow around them. "Soraya," he said gently, "you mentioned earlier that your people attach meaning to actions. Heavy meaning. Obligation. Pressure." "Yes," she said softly. "Every gesture carries weight." He stepped a little closer, careful, deliberate. "Then let me ask you without any expectation attached. What are you feeling now?" Soraya did not look away. The light reflected in her eyes, shimmering like distant stars pulled closer. "Peace," she answered, "and something I cannot define. It feels warm." Ethan nodded slowly. "I feel it too." The glow brightened between them, rising in a quiet, graceful arc that painted their shadows onto the curved walls. Soraya took one small step toward him, the fabric of his jacket brushing lightly against her arm. "Ethan," she said, her voice low and sincere, "among my people, revealing one's inner state is an act of deep trust. It is rarely offered freely." He met her gaze with steady calm. "Then I am honored." Her breath softened. "I did not expect to feel trust today, yet you made space for it." Ethan answered gently. "You made space too." A quiet warmth passed between them, unhurried and genuine, held in the soft glow that continued to pulse around their feet. The chamber hummed in agreement, a gentle resonance that felt almost like approval. Soraya folded her hands in front of her, her voice barely above a whisper. There is something else, she said. Something I should have told you earlier. Ethan's expression turned curious, steady. What is it? She drew in a slow breath. My status is not merely high. It is hereditary. My presence here was not accidental. I am the next in line to oversee diplomatic governance of this entire sector. Ethan absorbed that, his voice remaining calm. So you are more important than you let on. Yes, she said, her tone gentle but firm. And revealing my thoughts, my fears, or my personal hopes is considered a breach of protocol. Yet with you, I feel no fear in speaking them. Ethan stepped closer, not touching her, but offering presence. Then speak whatever feels real. Soraya's eyes softened into something warm and brilliant. What feels real is that your kindness has reached me deeper than any protocol ever could. The chamber glowed brighter still, bathing them both in quiet. Undeniable warmth as the truth shifted the air around them, drawing their worlds closer than either had expected. The resonance chamber held its warm glow as Ethan and Soraya stood in the gentle pulse of light, the quiet settling around them like a softened breath. The patterns beneath their feet began to slow, shifting from bright ripples into calm, steady rings that circled the platform with deliberate, peaceful rhythm. Soraya looked up toward the curved ceiling, her voice barely above a whisper. The palace is stabilizing. The energy shift has completed. Ethan nodded, sensing the air grow lighter. That means you are safe now. She turned her gaze toward him, the soft lavender shimmer of her crest reflecting a warmth that felt almost like gratitude shaped into light. Safe, she repeated, tasting the word carefully. A simple word, yet you have given it. Meaning today. Ethan offered a quiet smile. I was just doing what anyone should. No, she said gently. Not anyone. You. The glow around them dimmed into a deeper gold, signaling that the chamber had finished its alignment cycle. The hum beneath their feet softened until it felt like nothing more than a distant memory. Soraya stepped off the platform first, her movements calm, unhurried, as though she no longer feared the shifting energy of the palace. Ethan followed her into the softly lit hallway, where the walls curved smoothly and the lights glowed with a gentle, renewed steadiness. Ethan, she said quietly as they walked, I have been taught since childhood that strength comes from status, position, control. Ethan listened, matching her measured steps. And now, she paused near a tall archway where a panel flickered awake, projecting a soft lavender shimmer that recognized her presence. Her silhouette stood framed in its glow. Now I see strength in something far simpler, she said. In kindness given without demand. Support offered without condition. Ethan felt the truth of her words settle gently between them, warm and grounding. Sometimes the smallest things matter the most, he said. Sometimes they change everything. Soraya faced him fully, her eyes calm and bright. You changed something in me today, she admitted. Not through power. Not through rank. Through humanity. Ethan opened his mouth to respond, but she lifted her hand gently, not to stop him, but to speak first. I want you to understand this clearly, she said softly. What I offered you earlier, my trust, is considered rare among my people. And what I feel now, her voice trailed off as she searched for the right words. It is something even rarer. Ethan stepped closer, careful, respectful. You do not have to explain it all at once, he said. Whatever you are feeling, it is enough. Her eyes softened, the glow of the panel reflecting a soft violet shimmer across her features. Then let this be simple, she said. Today, in a moment where I expected only duty, I found warmth instead. Ethan breathed in slowly, letting the silence carry the weight of her words. Soraya continued, her voice steady and sincere. I will remember this day, not for the malfunction, not for the fear, but for you. The lights in the archway dimmed slightly, as if giving them a quiet boundary of privacy. Ethan met her gaze, feeling the unspoken truth settle between them in the stillness. And I will remember this day for you, he said. Soraya's expression softened into something peaceful, almost luminous. Then we are aligned, she whispered. They stood there in the gentle glow, the corridor silent except for the softened hum of the palace settling into perfect balance. No promises, no grand gestures, just a quiet understanding, warm and steady, held in the shared space between two worlds that, for this moment, felt remarkably close.